Okay, good evening. We're gonna obviously cut it shorter. Parsha Vayishlach. We're discussing the stories that happen in Vayishlach, and the story actually flows, and it flows beautifully. Of course, it's the Torah. The story flows beautifully. But I'd like to present the overarching, I'd say, almost like a theme that exists in this parsha. The parsha opens up with Yaakov preparing to meet Esav, and he has to prepare in different ways to deal with the whole scenario of how he's going to meet his brother, difficultly. After that, they make peace, and Yaakov goes in, or prior to them making peace, Jacob wrestles with an angel, right? Vayavek ish imo. So there's a man fighting with him, and he is able to win, and yet he is harmed. His thigh is now bruised. He has a limp. They move forward. He does well, and then his daughter Dinah is seduced by a man named Shechem, and then Yaakov's children, Shimon and Levi, go and wipe out everybody. They wipe out the whole city. Then later on, they move forward in that. Rachel dies while giving birth to Binyamin. And then Yitzchak dies also at the end of the parsha, as you pointed out, people dying at the end of the parsha. So I'm not really going to focus on people dying. I just want to focus on a couple of points that that are related to connecting this week to last week. Or actually the week before. So a couple of weeks ago we learned about the story of Yaakov trying to take the blessings away from Esav. And the way he does it is in this simple manner. What's the best way to get what you want from somebody else? Food. Right? He goes, prepares lentils for him, and the total outcome of everything is going to happen over food. Gives him the lentils, gets the blessings. When does that come to fruition? With more food. He goes and prepares food for his father, and the entire story revolves around food. It's not revolving, but it's basically on food. He gets the blessings, and it moves on. Okay? In last week's parsha, the whole story about Yaakov getting married, Yaakov becoming wealthy, dealing with Lavan, difficult individual. But that is the start of Yaakov having to deal with the blessings of Esav. He got the blessings, which meant that you're going to be a man of the world. You're going to become wealthy. You're going to be dealing with difficult people. And this is what your life is going to be when you're living like Esav. Because he's a man of the world. And so for Yaakov, his first introduction of that is going to be working with Lavan, an evil man who's trying to outsmart him every single way. And eventually Yaakov comes out somewhat unscathed, and he moves forward. And now he has the encounter with Esav. So what is this encounter with Esav about? So we know that one of the core components of Yaakov is what we've said before, and that is Hakol Kol Yaakov Hayadayim Midei Esav. The voice is the voice of Yaakov, and the hands are the hands of Esav. Forgot to record. If the core component concept of Yaakov is that the voice is the voice of Yaakov, that Yaakov's power is in his ability to pray, his ability to learn Torah, that's the essence of Yaakov. And the hands are the hands of Esav, which means it's a reference to that of physicality, doing everything with your raw hands and muscle. And now when he goes to meet Esav, what happens? He tries to appease him. He prepares. He does prepare in advance for everything, for war. He gives him a gift. He does whatever he does, and he prays. When you see the actual encounter, it's fascinating, the entire encounter. So Yaakov is afraid as the story opens up, and he says he's going to send messengers over to Esav. And he said, tell Esav, this is what Yaakov said, I've lived with Lavan, and I've been delayed, and I have all these oxen, and I have all these things, servants and the like, and I want to send them to you to appease you. And they said, you know what, Esav's coming back, and he's got a lot of men with him. Yaakov's concerned, maybe I'll split the camp in two. At least somebody will be able to survive. Okay, he davens, he prays over to God, and makes a promise, sends over gifts. And the verse says over here, let's get to it. He battles the angel, which is going to be considered the angel of Esav. Let me get to the line. His name is changed to Yisrael, and now he's going to meet Esav. When he goes to meet Esav, Vayaretz Esav l'kraso. Esav runs towards him to call out to him. Vayichabkeu, he hugs him. Vayipal out tzavrav, he falls on his neck, or they fall on each other's necks. Vayishakeu, and he kisses him, and they cry. Wow, this is a beautiful story. Like, what happened here? Esav wanted to kill him. That was the goal. He wanted to destroy his brother Yaakov. We saw weeks ago, that's what he said. When my father dies, I'm going to go kill him. That's what he said. Suddenly over here, something changes. And Esav now is hugging him and kissing him. And the two of them are crying together. What a beautiful scene. It's amazing. It's like a soap opera. Right? You grab your tissues. It's great. And then Esav wants to continue walking with him. And he says, no, I don't think it's a good idea. The whole story, and they go on their merry way, and they both, they both carry on their separate ways. So, what's happening in the story over here? Why is this story so profound? Why is it so important? Yaakov's name is changed before he actually meets Esav. So, I think what's happening here is the fundamental change, that the blessings were coming to Yaakov. When he had those blessings, he now had to actualize those blessings. And actualizing those blessings where he had to decide at different times in his life, when is he going to be the voice of Yaakov, to use the power of prayer, the power of speech, and the like? And when is he going to have to be the hands of Esav? When is he going to have those hands to be able to do the difficult things in life, the battles, the fights, the wars, and everything else? When is that going to happen? So here, somehow, and we're going to explain this, the Gemara that explains this is a Medrash that explains that Yaakov was expecting war, and he should have been expecting war, and somehow something changed in Esav, and he had such compassion for his brother. And he was in love with his brother. This is unbelievable. I can't believe I hated you for so long. That was an amazing experience. And right after that experience, what happens? Dinah gets kidnapped, if you will. She gets seduced by Shechem, and she's either raped or seduced, and Yaakov is silent now. Yaakov is silent. The Torah goes out of its way to tell us that Yaakov is quiet. V'hecherish Yaakov ad boam. The pasuk says, Yaakov didn't make a sound. The brothers come in, and they're upset. And they have to come up with a plan. What's the plan? Well, we'll be happy to marry into your family if everybody in the town will get a circumcision. They all agree, and the Yaakov's sons go ahead and wipe out the entire town. Everybody. They kill everybody in the entire town. What is that story about? Yaakov was upset. But what is that story about? So I think that story is about the second half of Yaakov, which is the blessings that he got, Esav's blessings. And the Torah is telling us that this week's Parsha is this struggle. The struggle happens in this Parsha when Yaakov's name is changed. Yaakov and Yisrael. There's going to be times when you're going to be Yaakov. There's going to be times when you're going to be Yisrael. And sometimes that's going to mean that you're going to actually have to fight. And sometimes it means you're going to have to use your words. So this is the transition. This is what makes Yaakov great in this week's Parsha, is when those blessings actually come to fruition. We thought it was going to come to fruition when he fought against Lavan. But that was only one way. That was trickery. That was trying to be able to deal with someone who's a trickster. But here's the next level, and that is working with your raw hands. Killing people. Why? Because you need to save your family. So on the one hand, he meets Esav, and he has to work. I think there's something that always makes me itch. Something in there, yeah? That he has to work with Esav, but he works with words. And somehow everything works out. And yet when it comes down to the people of Shechem, that's when his sons take over and actually go ahead and kill. Yaakov is silent. He's particularly silent. What does it mean silent? It means he's not even using his words. Rav Hirsch points out in that story, when he's going to be dealing with Shechem, so he says, in these words, he says that Yaakov's silence shows up the entire situation. He was an old man, perhaps 97 years old. Had there been a question here of getting anything done by reason, he would certainly not have remained silent. But the reason why he remained silent when dealing with these people who raped his daughter, he showed that already beforehand he knew only too well how hopeless any appeal to justice or human rights would be, and the only way would be some sort of resort to force, which would be a matter for the younger hands. Which means, basically, the literal explanation is the reason why Yaakov stayed silent was because of the fact he saw that there's nobody home. There's nobody to talk to over here. The only way we're going to resolve something is by force, and the only people that are going to have that force are my kids. That's what he says. That says Rav Hirsch.
But I thought he was very upset with the...
He was upset. So the question is, why was he upset? So he was upset because of the fact that perhaps they put them in a precarious situation now. Now all the other people are going to start fighting against us, and now we're going to have to start fighting with them. He wasn't upset that they did necessarily the wrong thing.
Silence usually means you're agreeing with things.
Well, no, but the silence happened prior to them killing. Prior to them killing, he was silent, waiting for his kids to do something.
Right, because he knew they were going to do something.
He knew they had to do something, right?
So why
But
is
it
he
has to
upset
do with the
that
7
afterwards?
Noah laws, that they should not have done it.
Separate thing, right? So he says, Yaakov says like this. Yaakov says to Shimon and Levi, Achartem osi, you have murkied me, you have murkied up the waters. Everything was clean and clear, and now you made it very difficult. Lahavi sheni biyoshev haaretz. Now amongst, here he translates, bad odor amongst the inhabitants of the land, amongst the Canaani and the Perizi people. Vanim is a small number. And they're all going to gather against me, and they're going to try to attack me. And then my entire house is going to be destroyed. So his concern is, I'm not against what you did, but we're outnumbered. This was not the right time to do this. Wait for us to become a bigger people. We're outnumbered. And what's the response that the brothers say over to Yaakov? They say, what, should they treat our sister like a prostitute? No way. And the story ends there. Yaakov does not respond. So he sees basically that they're right. Right? We have a similar way that a story ends. Sarah says, no, I didn't laugh. I was afraid. And he responds, no, you laughed. Period. End of story. And they go on to the next topic, right? Which means when the story's closed, we're not discussing any further. I got the last word in. And over here, Yaakov says, how could you do this? You know, all the other nations are going to go and attack me. Is he really bothered by the fact that he went and killed everybody? It doesn't seem so. And especially their response to that is, what, we're going to allow our sister to become a prostitute? Cannot be. Why is that? Well, let me just end the thought. So thought number one to end over here is, this again is Yaakov in transition mode from the voice of Jacob to now Hayadayim de Esav. He now takes on the role of Esav of using physical force to deal with some of the issues. So there are going to be times that we'll see that Yaakov is going to be using his power of prayer and calm words, versus the times when now he's going to have to use another approach. And here's the first time we actually see it. Right? And we see this also throughout history, times that Jews are going to deal. It seems that perhaps, I'm not sure if I'm totally right, Robert will then convince me otherwise. King David was considered much more, what's the word? Physical, and he dealt with a lot of wars and a lot of gruesome battles that he dealt with, where I don't believe King Solomon did the same way. I believe King Solomon is much more of a, we'll call it political activist. And that, Well, no, he didn't do it. That was his point. That was his point. But very peaceful. Not only that, they say that the many wives that he had were political wives. That he married all these wives in different countries in order to be able to bring those countries under his reign, not because he needed another wife. So that he dealt in a totally different way. Almost as if we see the two different versions of Yaakov actually coming out. One is in the sense of strength. in the attack mode in order to be able to show your strength, and the other one is to use words and we'll call it diplomatic approaches in dealing with things. That's the word I was looking for, right?
But after they had all these wars, King David, when he was fighting, everybody was afraid. So when King Solomon was there, it was the most peaceful time ever. Because everybody was afraid.
Okay, it could be that one set up the other. It definitely can be that one of them actually set up the other.
Same here. Once they destroy a whole city, everybody they wanted to attack them, they were afraid.
But Yaakov was unhappy with it. That was the point. He was unhappy because he felt that they were small in number to deal with this entire thing. But I do so that I think is a general point that is being displayed throughout the parsha, that we have to watch Yaakov and his family mature, quote unquote, if we're allowed to say that, into this role of using the power of prayer and introspection, and then becoming partly the aggressive side in order to be able to retain what's ours and retain what's right. There is a concept over here at the end of the story with Dinah, with the daughter here, and the two brothers, that what is it that they stood up for? And they said, can we allow our sister to become a prostitute? So Moses said, no, we have to put justice here. But why is this the ultimate answer to everything? And why does this actually silence Jacob? And the story goes on. And so I think I saw in Rav Hirsch, the comment is that the goal of Yaakov and the goal of his children are to be people that represent purity, people that represent morality. And when other people see us, they will say, whatever these people are, they're people of morality and they're people of purity. If now these people are going to attack that essence of who the people of Yaakov's family is and who the Jewish people are, then it means why are we sitting still? We must fight against that. If they cannot even respect our moral code and notice that we're different morally, then they've lost everything. So he says as follows. He says, Yaakov can only be safe. The people of Jacob can only be safe by recognition of its moral and spiritual nobility. What does that mean? It means what makes the Jew stand out? That we're moral, that we're spiritually noble, that we answer to a higher authority, right? That we follow a sense of godliness in a totally different place. So, but here this quality was disregarded and it was killed off, right? By the fact that they went and took a daughter of Yaakov. That's something that we don't do. We know we always say that if you look at areas of murder is something that's not that often found in Jewish homes, right? Meaning when you look at the news stories, what are Jews usually arrested for?
Financial stuff.
Money. Murder? Not usually. Once in a while, it's a bizarre when it happens like that, but it's usually money. Maybe sexuality, could be. Not as much, maybe. But money, we are all over the news when it comes to money. Right? If you want a news story about money, just put a Jewish name there. That's usually where it comes from. That's not our struggle. But so that area is obviously a moral issue, yet at the same time, it's not something that deals with physical life and sexuality and things like that. And that is a struggle that other people have to deal with, but it's not necessarily the struggle that Yaakov and his children have to deal with.
What about if you steal from somebody money and they have no money? When you have no money, that means you killed person. So it's kind of like...
I'm going to take his question and go totally off with it. Okay? I'm going to go off with this question. Why? I'm not going to even present the question, but I'm just going to present my own question based on it. My own question was that Esav originally sent his son, Eliphaz, to go and kill Yaakov in last week's Parsha. He sent him up. Go ahead, a hired hitman. So Yaakov goes to Eliphaz and he says, listen, take all my money. I'll be considered like I'm dead. And you can just tell him that you did the job. I'm a dead man, right? So we love that story. It's a great story. Everything works out. But that's not what happens in this week's Parsha. In this week's Parsha is like, look, what can I tell you? I've got cattle. I got sheep. I got everything. And I just wanted to give you a gift. Wait. So first of all, you're not dead. Second of all, you're loaded. you have a lot of money, right? And last week we said, let's just pretend I'm dead and tell him that I've accomplished nothing. So I'm asking you the question. Last week we wanted to play dead and wanted to be dirt poor, and Asa would leave us alone because then the blessings didn't come to him. This week we're telling him, listen, Asa, buddy, bro, come on. I'm the man. I made it. And I'm going to give you this gift. Why?
Because it shows like this call comes from the Hashem, whatever he gives you, like money-wise and everything. So it comes there. Another side, how can you decide?
Again, prior, Asa was hiring a hitman to go kill Yaakov. Yaakov wanted to show, what's the point of killing me? I'm nothing. I'm a nobody. Right? I have no money. I have nothing. Come on, let go of me. This week, he's about to meet him. And he's like, look, I have made it big. Asa, buddy, I made it big. So why last week?
But it meant nothing to him.
To Asa, to Yaakov.
To Yaakov.
Good, I know that. It's fine. Why last week did he have to prove that he was worthless, and this week he's proving that he's
because
somebody?
Money is a thing, comes and goes, and it doesn't mean anything for the person.
Okay, but so this week he needed to tell him that he has all this money. Last week he told him, I don't have any money.
Probably his approach he was more respectful in his eyes. In the A's of eyes.
So I think that the difference is what happened in last week's Parsha. And I think in last week's Parsha, when he's approached by Eliphaz, he really has nothing. He has no, what happens over there?
No, but he tells him, take everything that I have.
This is before he gets married, right?
But I think he had something. He gave him like some stuff.
Gave him up, but it's before he got married and before he actually had to deal with Lavan.
Yeah.
So before he dealt with Lavan, his approach is going to be, look, I'm nothing, I'm worthless. I have no value. Come on, don't worry about I didn't get any of the blessings. Once he's fought with Lavan, Rashi tells us in this week's Parsha, in Lavan Garti, I lived with an evil man, and I was able to do fairly well. I survived fairly well. So the approach of Yaakov now changes. Esav, I'm no longer the meek and the weak and meager person that the blessings didn't come to me. No, the blessings have come to me, and Hashem is giving me ultimate protection from that. So you have to realize that I'm fine. Before I would have easily given in to you and let you know that I'm nothing. But now I realize that I have acquired something, and that is I've acquired the power of Hashem because I was able to fight with Lavan. I was able to deal with someone as difficult as this, and therefore I'm able to get past this. And that's why his entire approach to Esav is actually going to be different. That's my own interpretation. Certainly you can argue with it, but that's my interpretation. There's an important idea that Rav Yochanan Levovitz, through Rav Schwab, explained this idea, that we said that Esav finds him, he runs over to him, he hugs him, they're kissing, hugging, such a beautiful scene, but the two of them are actually crying. So he says, what are they crying for? So he says, listen to why they're crying. At that moment, the Medrash says, really Esav wanted to kill Yaakov, but something came over him, he became so filled with compassion. How could I want to kill my brother? Became so filled with compassion, and he began kissing him and hugging him, and he cried on his shoulders. So the Medrash says, or Shimon Bar Yochai says, it is known, it is clear, known halacha, that Esav sonias Yaakov, Esav hates Yaakov. However, his compassionate side somehow lit up, and therefore he kissed him with all of his heart. It wasn't a fake kiss, it was a real kiss. I can't believe my brother Yaakov. Jake, where have you been? I can't believe this. How we've been running away from each other all this time. So one moment he wants to kill him, the next moment he loves him with all his heart. What's going on over here? So Rav Schwab quotes from Rav Yerucham and explains as follows. Yaakov prepared himself accordingly. I don't know what's going to happen. I got to prepare for a war. I got to give him a gift. I got to pray. I got to do all these things. Why? Because I'm not expecting any miracles to actually happen over here. Well, what actually does happen? Esav somehow turns super compassionate and gives Yaakov this big hug. Why is he becoming super compassionate? Because a miracle actually happened. What's the miracle? The miracle was that he became compassionate. That was the miracle. So he says, Ein somchan al hanes. You cannot rely on miracles. For a person to change their character, to become someone of such hate into someone of such love, the only way that can happen is Miracle.
Lecture about his own miracles and all this. Okay.
So only through a miracle. So what he
Miracles,
says,
all over if you thinking about Torah all the time. It's a miracle, miracle.
Everything's a miracle. Correct.
Miracle.
Everything's a miracle, right? So, but what is he saying over here? What is he saying over here? We don't think that's a miracle. We think a miracle is when a sea splits, when something else happens, when some amazing thing, you see the hand of Hashem. There's a miracle when someone who does not ever work on their character and somehow they change. You know, it's like imagine you're driving on a freeway and a state trooper pulls somebody over and he's mean and angry and you go, "Oh, but officer, would you like to see a picture of my dog?" And he goes, "Oh, that is the cutest thing. You know, why don't you go?" Like, how did that happen? You know? So Rabbi Yerucham says for Esav to change his ways and to now have compassion, it's purely a miracle. So he says like this. He says, when Esav saw the miracle happen to himself, that he suddenly realized that he has such compassion that overtaken here, he began to cry. Not because he cried for Yaakov, he began to cry because he now looked at his life and said, all my life I've been holding on to anger. All my life I've been holding on to this hatred towards my brother. And you know what? I realize right now that I'm a compassionate human being. I've lost it all. My whole life has been false. Everything I've been working for my whole life is now flashing in front of my face and I see that it's emptiness. And so he's going to turn to Yaakov and says, "Can we please walk together? I realize my life, I just woke up. My life is a mess." Yaakov says, "Sorry, no can do. No can do. You know why? It's a miracle that you're acting this way. That miracle's not going to last forever."
When the Midrash says there, when Esau wanted to kill him by biting his neck and it's become as stone very hard,
right? So
he
that's
could not do it. Is that when he changed, realizing?
So that's a good question. It's a good question. It seems to be a conflicting medrash, which you could have, but maybe it changed after that. Maybe he changed after that, and somehow he had this compassion overtake him.
But he still wanted to kill him, and after that it continued that he wanted to kill him. He told him, "Come to my place
again."
later.
So the point is over here is that at this moment, Yaakov expected him to want to kill him, and Esav now somehow cries, and he's crying on his shoulder. Okay, and he says, "Why is he crying?" Again, like I already explained, but he says, "Wait a minute." Esav realized, I grew up in Avram's house. I grew up in Yitzchak's house. I grew up in the greatest people's houses. Look what I've become. How could it be that I've become something like this? And yet I could have been just like you. I could have been just as great as you, but I never chose to do that. So that's why he was crying over here. Yaakov was also crying because he saw how much of his brother actually failed and what could have become his brother, but didn't actually happen there. So he says, that what Yaakov has come to this realization is that for an individual to change like this, that can only be coming from God. It can only be something that comes from God. But Esav saw that with God on your side, you can actually change as a human being. You can become a totally different human being, and that's why he was actually crying over here. So there's a major shift that's happening in Esav, but yet the Medrash who tells us, it says, Halachi Yadua. It's known that Esav really hates Yaakov. So even though right now he's compassionate, that will change over time. And of course, we pray that we're living in a time where Esav is our brother. Like in America, where they're treating us with proper dignity and the like. That's certainly we hope for. But of course, at any time it can change. It's almost as if we're living with a miracle right now. Right? The fact that we live in America this way, we've never had it like this as Jews, ever. So it's almost as if we're living with that miracle over here. But this was the miracle. The miracle was that, number one, he became compassionate. Number two, that he recognized himself, that his whole life, he could have lived a whole different life, but he chose not to do that. We'll end with one thought. Very simple thought. We'll end with Yaakov's name is changed before he goes and fights against Esav. Before he meets Esav, he fights against the angel, and his name is changed. His name is changed to Yisrael by the angel, and then later on, his name is going to be changed by Hashem. Okay, so it's going to be changed twice. So I just want to point out the following point over here. I was listening to share from Rabbi Eitan Feiner, but we'll just try to take it to a different direction. Avraham had his name changed. The Torah says you're never allowed to call Avraham by his original name again. You can't do it. It's considered a sin. If you call him Avraham without the hey in his name, that's considered a sin. Yaakov, it says, Shimcha Yaakov, your name is Yaakov. Your name is no longer going to be called Yaakov. So it says, your name is Yaakov, and then it's no longer, which means there are times when Yaakov will be referred to Yaakov, and times he'll be referred to as Yisrael, or Yisrael. So Avram's name is changed, totally. Yaakov's name is changed, partially, sometimes. It's like he got it on his driver's license, It's like he got that addition on his driver's license. And then Yitzchak, his name is never changed. Yitzchak's name remains. So notice over here, the nuance over here. Avram is totally changed. Yitzchak never changed. And Yaakov is partially changed. Okay? So what is the Torah trying to teach us over here, the essence of these people? Avram is changed entirely because he must become an entirely different human being. To become the father of all nations, you must have an entire name change. You can never be referred to back as something else. You are a new creation onto yourself, onto the world, and that is where the world is going to recognize monotheism. Through Abraham. So his name has to change. So whatever existed in the past can no longer exist. You're something entirely new. Yitzchak was perfect from the moment he was born. Perfect to the point that he could no longer leave Israel. Right? He was not allowed to leave the land of Israel. He was perfect. He was going to be offered as a sacrifice. So because of his perfection of who he represents, his name is never going to be changed. Yaakov has to go through transitions. He's going to have to go through changes within his life, but not to forget the past, but for the past and future to come together. So he's going to be called Yaakov, which is going to be part of the past, and he's going to be called Yisrael, which is going to be part of the future. And so the Jewish people who are represented by Yisrael, who we are going to be both Jacob, we're going to be Yaakov, and we're going to be Yisrael. It's not that we're forgetting about a past, like Avram had to forget about whatever existed before that, but we're actually, and it's not that we're perfected, we're not in the level of perfection like Yitzchak, but rather we live in this dual world over here, of the Yaakov world and the Yisrael world. And Tzip points out that Yaakov represents everything that happens in a natural form, and Yisrael represents everything that happens in a supernatural form. That's how we can live. And depending on how we live our lives as individuals, as communities, that's how we can actually elevate ourselves to someone who lives naturally or someone who lives supernaturally. But we see the transition of Avraham all the way to Yaakov is that the Jewish people who are Yisrael, the way that we're going to actually live our lives is going through both. A little bit of change, focus on past, focus on future. We're not just totally towards the future, and we're certainly not totally towards the past, and we're not in a level of perfection. So we're actually work in that way that Yaakov now is going to have both names to work with, and that is where the Jewish people come from, to have both Yaakov and to have Yisrael.